Hello, welcome back. Today is April 14th of 2021. Now I was going to color on this golf ball today, but then I noticed it said First National Bank of Gaylord, and I laughed, and now it's going in a display case. Either way, we're coloring on this golf ball now. Now I had a little thought to myself today, I don't know how many times I've said it, but here in Colorado, the snow season seems to come in not December, January, and February, but rather in March, April, and May, which, should be springtime, but Colorado says, nah, let's do this instead. And so, I had a thought in my head today. I thought, is Colorado a masochist? And I decided, yes, Colorado is a masochist. This Colorado as a state, as a boundary divided piece of dirt in the ground, is a masochist. And I'm going to tell you why. Now, you see, in spring here in Colorado, the weather, it fluctuates like fucking crazy. You go from cold to warm to cold to warm, and there's no in between. So, on those warmer days, the trees, they get a little time to, get some sunshine and get their buds blossoming. And, recently, a lot of our trees in our backyard, they've gotten some new buds and some new leaves, and the flowers have started to bloom. But, starting yesterday, the temperature dropped and we started to get snow. I kind of got worried that all the buds on the flowers and the leaves on the tree were gonna die because of the snow. And it's like, Colorado, why would you do that? Why would you why would you make your trees blossom and then kill them with snow? Why do you do that? Because you're a masochist, Colorado. Not the people in Colorado. Colorado as a whole, as a state, is a masochist. This isn't the first time it's happened either. Last spring, same thing happened. All the trees, they started to blossom leaves and stuff, and then we got a bunch of snow, and it killed all the leaves on the trees. I don't think we got to see very many flowers that year. It was really sad. It was very sad. And it's all Colorado's fault. Colorado, why do you do this? Why? Why do you have to kill the leaves on the trees? Why do you have to be masochist? Why can't you just be normal like all the other states? Or at least pick a season. Geez, you can't have spring and winter at the same time. I mean, if you try having spring during winter, I mean, what are you filling in where winter should be? Just cold? Because that seems to be the case. This Christmas, no snow, no nothing. We just got cold. Now that I think about it, maybe Colorado isn't a masochist. Because, you think of a state, you think of, everything on the ground. Colorado is, just a big square of dirt, right? And yes, it does govern, the trees and the nature and the wildlife and all that. But what's on the ground doesn't govern the weather. So maybe Colorado and the weather have beef with each other, and then, when spring comes, Colorado's like, all right, time to bloom some flowers, but then the weather's like, no, I'm gonna kill your flowers. And I'm gonna have to, retract my previous allegations. I'm sorry, Colorado, you're not the masochist. It's the weather's fault. All these weathermen, they'll have you believe that an area's weather is governed by the area, but they're wrong. You've been lied to. I just lost the plot a little bit. The train of thought's been severely derailed. Okay, I need to regroup myself. So who had me believing that Colorado governed the weather? Was it anyone? Have I been lied to, or am I just stupid? This was supposed to be a short, silly video, but now I'm kind of reaching a conundrum. Maybe it's the weather that's been lying to us. Okay, let's break down what's happening now. Actually, let's see. So Colorado, we've confirmed upon further review, is not the masochist, because Colorado governs everything that happens on the ground. It governs the trees and the animals and all that because it's a pile of dirt. And that's where it all comes from, right? When Colorado decides to bloom its trees and then the weather destroys it, that's the weather acting on Colorado. Now, I remember I said that the weathermen have been lying to us. So let's take the weathermen out of this scenario. We're left with just Colorado and its weather. So what I have right now is that Colorado grows the trees, and then the weather destroys the trees with snow or cold weather or whatever. So that would mean that Colorado is not a masochist, and the weather just hates Colorado and wants to see all the trees die. And I'm going to stick with my argument that Colorado governs all the plants and trees and whatnot, and the weather comes to destroy it. I'm going to keep that theory because plants and trees and all that, they adapt and evolve to fit the will of the weather. Not to say that the weather controls the plants, but to say that the plants control themselves in order to survive the weather. So, yes, the plants and the weather are separate, as well as Colorado and the weather is separate. And with that, we could stick with the idea that the weather just hates Colorado and wants to see all its plants die. If we go a little deeper, and we assume that the weather wants to kill all the plants, then that would mean no more oxygen into the atmosphere. And that being the case, one or two things could happen. In scenario 1, everything burns up because a hole has been created in the ozone layer because the weather killed all the trees. And because everything burns up, there's massive clouds of ash in the sky, which isn't really weather, it's ash. So let's assume that clouds are the personification of weather. Then the weather would have to share its space with ash clouds, which, you would assume it wouldn't want. Now, scenario 2 is very similar. Honestly, it's more of a continuation to scenario 1. But basically, everything burns up, the ozone layer is gone. And I can't guarantee this would happen, I haven't done my research, but alright, I'm going to make an assumption. I'm going to assume that we're going to assume that Earth is like Mars. We're going to assume that if there's no atmosphere, then the poles are going to be really cold and everything else is going to be really hot, and all the water is going to evaporate into the sky, go to the poles and freeze. To which case there would be no more weather, no more clouds in the sky, because there's no more liquid water, which would then kill the weather. So I think we can assume from both scenarios that Colorado is not the masochist. The weather is the masochist. I can't guarantee we've determined that, but I think that's all I'm going to discuss today, at least. I'm going to look over this footage and I'm going to confirm if my theory is correct or not tomorrow. I'm going to try anyway. I'm going to do my research. Okay, yes. All right, we're going to end it here. We'll talk more about it tomorrow maybe. But there's our golf ball. All right, let's go slap this sucker on the pyramid. All right, there's our golf ball for today. I will see you guys tomorrow.